we'll get over to the, quiet you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, welcome back, I suppose. A lot of you, I'm sure, have come over from the video that I did with Rob Scallon building a classical guitar, and there was a whole lot that got left on the cutting room floor that we didn't get a chance to detail because, you know, that movie was already 2.5 hours long. So let's do this a little bit more in depth and a little bit quicker segments, but a lot more detail that you can see in every single piece. Recently, I was contacted by somebody who saw the video and wanted a guitar built, so we went back and forth for a little while and chose some woods, and he said, well, yeah, let's do this, but under the condition that you film it and put it up on YouTube, because I really enjoyed watching it, and I think that a lot of people would like to see it more, and I listened to a lot of the comments, or read, because I read, I don't listen, I suppose. Anyways, I've got some wood. We're going to start it out by joining up the top and the back, and I'll show you how we go about doing that, and we'll go from there. So this gentleman wanted a smaller guitar, so what I did was I selected this really nice piece of Sitka spruce here. It gives a lot of the qualities that I like in terms of spruce sound, but it's also got a lot of the cedar sounds. So it's a little bit sweeter than your typical German or Engelmann spruce. And this one also has a benefit of having a lot of what's called Hazelficht or bear claw, which is a really, really desirable characteristic. Once this is under finish, it's going to look really, really beautiful. And then to go with it is this quilted mahogany, a matching back and a set of sides that all came from the same piece of wood. And so we're going to work this all down together and make a guitar out of it. Alright, so here we are at the joiner, and I probably don't use these enough, but you should. So I'm going to make an effort to use this, a little bit of ear protection. This joiner, as you can see, it's got the blades. There's 3 of them here. Don't touch that like I just did. But we should always keep this gate closed. This is one of the fastest ways to lose a finger, and it really comes out the other side not enough intact to really save. You know, at least with a bandsaw or a table saw, you got a little stumpy nub you can reattach. As always, be careful. Leave your guards on as much as possible. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put these on. I'm going to fire up the dust collector behind me because I really don't like to clean up dust. And I've decided I want this edge to be my side that gets glued together, or otherwise known as the center of the top. And when I was looking at it, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a slight amount of bow on this. Run one piece at a time over your joiner, usually. But because this has a little bit of a bow, I like to take out that bow at the same time, just so that way I can make sure that I keep the grain lines lined up. And then once I've got this joined up, I'm going to do the same thing for the back. I'll just show you a little bit of that. And then we're going to go over to and set up our joiner plane so that way we can have a clean, fresh, hand-planed surface. So let's do this. A smaller piece of wood, I'd definitely be looking out for that, making sure it's nice and even. But, you know, right off the bat, you can see it comes together. It's going to be a really beautiful piece of wood. And if you look really carefully and closely at this, hopefully the camera's picking it up, you can see that there's like a little bit of a scalping, and that will inhibit the glue joint. So we want to have a really high integrity level of glue joint. I'm going to run the back over real quick, and then we'll get them joined up. Alright. Alright. So, we've got this joined up, and we'll get over and join this up. Alright, So I've got my joiner plane set up. It's already squared up using my square. I checked it to make sure that it's square to my shooting board. And yes, this is a Lie-Nielsen plane. If you don't have a Lie-Nielsen, that's fine. Use whatever you have. Just try to find the plane with the longest sole that you have. So if you only have a 5, that's fine. Use it. If you have a block plane, use it, but you're going to have a little bit more troubles. But this is what I've got. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the wood in this direction from edge to edge about 3 times. Okay? And after it's passed by 3 times, all of the discrepancies from the joiner, and if there's a high spot in the middle or whatever, that's all going to be gone. And at that point, we're going to do what I call a half plane. So I start a little ways in from the edge and stop a little ways out from the edge, and then I take one more cleanup pass. The reason being, I know myself, and I have a tendency to put a little bit too much pressure at the beginning, take a little bit of a lighter stroke in the middle, and I tend to put a little bit more pressure at the edge, which creates essentially an hourglass between the 2 pieces of wood. So in order to prevent that from happening, I've developed this technique. When Rob was here, I noticed that he was putting a little bit too much tension in the middle, so he didn't really have to do this. Everybody is different, but check your work carefully, because these joints, once done, if they're a good joint, they won't come unglued for a very, very long time, if ever. If you do a poor joint, I get repairs into my shop all the time because somebody didn't take the time to do this step. So please, if you're going to do it, take the time. It's worth it. That way your client doesn't say, oh, my center seam is opening up. That's because you didn't do it right. So here we've got this beautiful, beautiful wood. And I'm going to look at the direction of the grain, which it's mostly going in this direction. So I want to be cutting with the reed lines falling into the blade, not going away. So it's kind of like petting a cat the wrong way, and with equal results. This will jump up and claw you, because bear claw. All right, so here we go. We're going to start here and then here. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then I do my half, which I suppose is about half. I maybe start about 1/8 of the way up. And to there. And I ramp out of this one. And then, because we introduced that bow, 1, 2 cleanup passes. All of the shavings from joining should be about that much. That's actually a good amount. You don't want to see too terribly much more than that. This one needs a little more. Alright, again, we've got just a small amount of shavings. You don't have to spend all day working at it. You don't have to spend even 5 minutes doing it. This just takes an extra minute or 2, and it makes all the difference in the world. Alright, so here we have the back. A lot of people's tendency is to take it in this shape, because this is the top of the back, going to, starting at the widest part, moving to the top part. But we actually have to really pay attention to which way the grain is going. And in this case, it's actually moving in this direction. So I'm actually going to want to cut it in this way. So it's the same movements. And this cut's really, really easy. This mahogany is like butter. It's incredible. It feels almost like the spruce as I cut it. And then I'm going to do the half. And there, if you see that, that is a beautifully shiny surface that is off of the plane. Now I'm going to do my very best not to touch this and bump into this, because this is absolutely integral. And I'm going to do it to the other side, and we'll get these glued up. So as I do this, I'm actually feeling in my fingertips if how the blade is cutting. And if I at any point I just start to feel snagging or holding or anything like that, I'm actually going to stop and sharpen the blade. I typically only have to sharpen this one once every year or so, maybe twice a year. But it's not that often. Just have to be very careful to make sure that the blade is flat, and then when I put it back together, I'll take a couple test cuts on another spruce top that I'm going to do something with, but not for a center seam, until I get it tweaked out exactly the way I want it. That takes a little bit of time, but again, you're only doing it once or twice a year, so what's an extra 10 minutes? It doesn't matter. I mean, surely if you've got time to watch me do this, you've got time to do this, right? Alright, so that's good. I'm very happy with the way that this looks and the way that it's cutting across, and we're going to get this glued up, so let's go make some glue.
Hey!